Room's hazy, but your vibe is crystal clear. Got you thinking about Jackal, baby, 'cause he's right here. You tune right into the podcast, ain't no doubt. The Ela Frequency Podcast is what it's all about. Eternal love always.
Hey, what's up? It's Jackal. Thanks for joining me on the Ela Frequency Podcast. You could have been anywhere in the world right at this time, but you chose to take this time to spend it with me, and I appreciate that. So as not to waste it, let's get to it. What are we talking about? We today are diving deep into a journey of radical pivots, systematic integrity, and what it actually looks like to shift from a reactive punishment to proactive care. Our guest today has spent her life navigating the highest levels of our legal and political systems, from the halls of Harvard and Georgetown law to running her own solo law practice, in the trenches of her own solo law practice, that is, criminal defense and child protection. She's been a city council member and an assistant county attorney and a voice within the machine. But at a certain point, she realized that to find the real truth of community healing, she had to step out of the courtroom and get upstream. Today, she's a director in Hennepin County, leading a massive multi-million-dollar shift away from traditional policing and truancy and moving towards genuine community-led violence prevention and family support. We will be tracking her journey chronologically from elite law schools to the messy middle major career pivots to the hard truths of systemic change. Please welcome to the Ela Frequency Podcast, Lisa Bailey.
Thank you, Nate.
How was that for you?
That was great. Thank you. Thank you. I feel better already.
I told you before you came, I said, hey, I have to get you on my podcast. Mm-hmm. And you were saying, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't think my life is podcast worthy. And I'm here to prove you wrong.
I love it. Thank you. You've already given me a big ego boost. But thank you.
So let's talk about where it all began, your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in whiter than white Rochester, Minnesota. I was in the 60s and 70s, and 70s mostly. My dad was at Mayo Clinic, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was super, traditional sort of stay-at-home mom, mm-hmm. Dad out there being the high flyer, whatever. But my dad came from a pretty poor background. Where he had just kind of clawed his way up, and he got a scholarship way back in the day in the 50s to go to a boarding school out east. And he had no one in his family had ever left the state. I mean, it was really weird that he did that. And he went out there, didn't come home for 3 years. And he went out there didn't even have a coat. He got off the train and he didn't have a coat. He tells this story all the time.
So he essentially joined the military.
Yeah, really. I mean, he didn't know he had no idea what he was stepping into. Mm-hmm. And it was this very preppy, elite world, but he had gotten this scholarship. And so he was a paper boy. So he just made it happen. He then got into Harvard, got a scholarship out there, and then he went to medical school, and he became this big Mayo doctor. And my dad was really the driving force in my life, who really stressed the importance of feeling fortunate for what you have, mm-hmm. and giving back to the community, and not getting too big for your britches and all that kind of thing. So awesome, lovely upbringing. I mean, it was great. It was just really nice family, lots of friends coming over all the time, mm-hmm. and barbecues. And
so do you feel like your house was the it house, or did you go somewhere else?
No, it was our house. It was definitely our house. And a lot of church. I mean, we were part of the Episcopalian church, but we did a lot of, in all the choirs. There was like 3 or 4 choirs. And but Rochester in the 70s and early 80s was very homogenous at the time. I mean, it was really, so going out. So then when I went out, left, it was like, oh, there's this whole other world out there. But my dad had really always been saying, there's this whole other world out there. You got to make sure that you see that and don't think that this is the world, because it's not.
How young were you when those seeds were being planted?
Really young, because he was definitely the dominant person in our house, and everything he taught us and said and did, and he was a big reader and a big we got to travel, and he was always talking about the importance of recognizing that there's a lot bigger world out there, that you can't just think that your world is everything. So that was that, and church, where we were talked a lot about giving to your community and sort of making sure you realize that, just because you're doing well doesn't mean everyone's doing well. And so those 2 things were really important. And
did you have any siblings?
Yeah, brother and sister. Yeah, my sister lives in St. Paul. My brother's still down in Rochester. Yeah.
Where were you in that?
Oldest.
Of course. So you were the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. So they learned with you and everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
So high school, what was your high school like? What was that like?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but
you were homeschooled?
No, I was not homeschooled. But so my dad had gone to this boarding school, and we were in Rochester, and it's like in the early 80s, and I was really bored. And so I went to boarding school out east, and
you just went. You can't just.
Well,
go.
I mean, applied. I had to apply. I applied. I applied to my dad's school and another school, and both excellent schools, and got into both of them, but decided to go to this other one.
When you say boarding school, some people don't know what that really is.
Yeah, I know. Well, people at the time thought I must have been pregnant. Like everybody assumed that I was being sent away, because they didn't know. Nobody in Rochester, like, what's boarding school? No, it was just a nice school where you lived in dorms. It was like college, only I was there starting 10th grade, and
and you knew that because your dad.
Exactly, because he had this whole experience where he was he won this award because he was a paper boy.
So you kind of that was, so it was a positive thing in your head the whole time. Oh, I can do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and then when he said, "Hey, would you be interested?" Because I was clearly just kind of treading water, and I thought, yeah, this sounds great. I went out there, and it was just, these schools are beautiful. The school I went to was called Phillips Academy, Andover, and it was a gorgeous school. There are people from all over the world, kids from all over the world, and just beautiful facilities. It's just like, and the motto of that school is non-sibi, which means not for oneself, which again was reinforcing this idea that like public service and you got to, get out in the community. And so I was just really, really lucky I got to do that. That was by far the turning point in my life, that school.
So in that school, were you taking was the curriculum the same, like history, science, math?
Yep, but really hard. And from my graduating class, I think 25 kids went to Harvard. Like it was really, really intense, and then 10, 15 went to Yale. And it was just expected that you were going to go somewhere difficult and that you were supposed to challenge yourself. And so it was tough, but it was great. It was just beautiful. I have nothing bad to say about it. Okay.
So speaking of, you went to the elite institutions like Harvard and Georgetown Law. So first Harvard, then Georgetown.
Yep. First Andover, that's high school, and then Harvard, and then Georgetown Law.
So how did that manifest itself? Like, why Georgetown? So
a little bit of a long story. So I
it's a podcast.
Okay. You can cut out the boring parts. But so got into college right out of high school. I just went. Actually, I took a year off because I forgot that I got on the wait list to get into Harvard, and they said if you're willing to wait for a year, you can go. And so I was like, sounds fine to me. I'm not in any rush. So I spent that year doing just cool stuff. Like I spent a couple months working at the Mayo Clinic for in a lab, decided I did not want to be in a lab. Like I hated it, but it was a good experience. Spent a couple years as a couple months as a nanny for this wealthy Japanese family in Tokyo because somebody I'd met at Andover.
So you can't just buzz over that. So you went to Tokyo?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was 18.
Yeah, that's boring.
Oh my God. I didn't know what I was doing. My parents were like, what? And then, they flew me out there and I just lived with this family and I didn't know. I was like this little girl from Rochester, Minnesota. I was kind of like, hey, and I didn't speak Japanese. You were an adult
at that time, right?
I was 18. Yeah. So, that was very interesting. But I was only there for a few months and I worked and then for a couple months in Sydney, Australia for a teacher who was a teacher at Andover who needed someone to care for his kids for the summer. So I was like, all right. So I just kind of found ways to do stuff that year. And then I spent the last few months in Yellowstone, Montana, working in the gift shop at the Yellowstone at the Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel. Or no, it was at Mammoth Hot Springs. Yeah, in the hotel. And that was a blast. I was with my best friend from Rochester and who's still a really good friend of mine. And we it was just really, really fun. If you ever get to work in a national park, it's super fun. It's a lot of partying, but it's a lot of being outdoors. And it was great. And then went to college. And,
that's for you all. If you all get to, I don't think I'm going to get
you're
to
not
that point.
You're not going to be working in a national park. So that was great. And then went to college. And afterward.
College,
went to Harvard College.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so wait. So you try to brush over things and they're the interesting points.
Yeah, okay.
But they're not much to you because you did it,
Yeah.
So I know how that feels sometimes. But going to Harvard, being the child of someone who went to Harvard, what is that called?
Legacy.
So were you a part of that? Did that help or that didn't play any part?
Oh, I'm sure it played a part.
Yeah,
I mean, especially back in the 80s. And now it's getting to be less of a thing, but
so they probably asked that question on the application or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I'm sure it played a part. And then the fact that I went to Andover and all these things. And it actually helped me that I was from at the time, a small town from Minnesota. Yeah. Like there weren't a lot of kids coming from Minnesota. So they're like, oh, she's from Minnesota, you know? So, yeah, I mean, we laugh all the time and I say, like when my kids got into school, I say, I would never get into these schools now. Like it's so competitive, but
right.
it was just kind of the stars aligned and I got that. And, I loved it. It was great. I really, I got a tight group of friends and roommates, and we're still good friends today. And so that was kind of the big thing out of it. But it was a great experience. I mean, it was hard.
So what was great about it? Did you become part of any sororities or?
So Harvard doesn't have sororities, but it doesn't have a Greek system, but has these, what I think of are kind of horrible clubs. They're called finals clubs and they're all male. They were all male at the time and women weren't allowed. Yeah. And I know in the 80s, like women weren't allowed, but so I wasn't a part of that, but I did get really involved in a youth program. So this is kind of maybe started with my interest in youth programming called City Step, which I'm still on one of their sort of advisory groups now. But it was a group. I was the producer of this. It was like a arts program where we brought Harvard students into the Cambridge public schools to teach dance and sort of expression, and then put on this big performance at the end of the year with all original jazz music and all original choreography and all original sets. And it was at like in the Harvard Theater.
Had to dance?
The big thing. No, I was the producer. They didn't allow me to dance. But it was a great experience because I learned about producing. I learned about fundraising. I learned about just kind of organizing and sort of figuring things out, like taking an idea and putting it into reality. And so it was great. And now City Step has expanded to like 6 schools. It started at Harvard, expanded, and it's a big thing. I mean, it's all over. But at the time, it was just us. And one of the kids who was in it was, oh shoot, I'll have to think of his name. He's now he's a famous. He's he's from Boston. He's friends with Matt Damon. Who's Matt Damon's best friend? Caleb is the little brother. Anyway, this program has become well known now. when I was there, it was just
started
starting.
and you
it.
produced-
I was just helping getting it started. I was one of the people. I was
Right.
the producer. Yeah, the second year.
Yeah, so you started.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was a great program, and like I said, I still go to New York and help with now they do fundraising and stuff, and so that was awesome. But I left there, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I was kind of interested in legal stuff.
Wait.
Go ahead. I don't want to get ahead.
Because you say you left there. So after, what, 4 years?
Yep.
Okay, now go.
Yeah, 4 years. Yep. So I got a job at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Okay. So at this time, you only had, not only, but you just had a bachelor's degree. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I became a paralegal at in Manhattan at the New York District Attorney's Office. The way the district attorneys work there is there's one for each of the boroughs. So Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island, and the Queens. And so I was in New York, and just by chance, and I don't know if this can mean much to you, Nate, I became the paralegal to John F. Kennedy Jr., who was President Kennedy's son, who was at the district attorney's office at that time. And when I first interviewed, they said to me, well, John F. Kennedy Jr. works here, which of course I knew because everybody knew that. And they said, we're telling you that if you talk to the press, you will be immediately fired. And I kind of went, okay, I was like, I had no idea. And then I'm walking down the hall. This is at the interview. I'm walking down the hall afterward, and I see him walking towards me. And I don't know if you've ever seen him.
The day of the interview?
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he was gorgeous. He was just this larger than life.
I concur. I agree.
I mean, and I just kind of went, oh my God, John. So I got the job, and then, and there were kids from my school who'd gone there. That's how I'd found out about it. That was a thing. And, I really loved New York and I was making no money. So I was really having to live in this with some friends, and, we would go to happy hour and try to eat at happy hour, because it was cheaper. But and then John was there and was
at the happy hour.
Not he did come to happy hours actually. It would be very funny because we would on a Friday night we'd be like, hey, have a good weekend, and on Monday you'd see on the front page that he had been partying with Daryl Hannah in the Bahamas over the weekend, whereas I had been sitting in my apartment doing my laundry. And I'd be like, hey, how was your weekend? And he'd go, oh, it was fine. How was yours?
It reminds me of an episode of Seinfeld, that?
Yeah, totally. It's just when I watched that, exactly. Or the John. John, what did he say? Mrs. John F. Kennedy Jr. Yes, that was me, and he was an incredibly charismatic person, incredibly charismatic and funny and really smart, terrible lawyer, terrible. And there are just lots of funny stories about him, but super tragedy that he died. I mean, I remember where I was when I heard about it. It was just terrible, but that was amazing. And then after about a year and a half, I think, I went into the community affairs department there, which was very similar to what we're doing in Safe Communities now. But I was a 24-year-old, whatever, 25-year-old at the time, 24-year-old, I guess. So I was doing, and my area that I covered was Harlem and the Upper West Side. And so from Midtown to Harlem and the Upper West. So I was working for the county attorney's office and doing things like going to, community meetings at night, and they'd be complaining about stuff, or we'd be working with them on the corner of, Broadway and 87th Street and saying, what are we going to do? And it was a very surreal thing because there were moments where I'm standing up there like this little white girl in my little Ann Taylor suit, talking about how to recognize where a crack dealer has put his is hiding his stuff up above the light switch and stuff, the light fixtures in the street. So it was, I felt like we were talking about imposter syndrome before. There were moments there where I was like, I don't know anything about this. What am I doing here? But it was pretty amazing because I got this opportunity to go into the communities, and people were really generous, and saying, come on in, we'll teach you about this. And I went to a lot of housing projects where they have these committees of a lot of, older ladies who were trying to clean things up, and they were doing it, and they were doing it really, and they were like, they didn't want to hear from me, that's for sure, which why would they, right? But they were getting together and saying, we're not going to have this anymore. And so this was late 80s, like early 90s. And things were pretty bad in New York, and these mostly ladies, but they were all like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to, you've heard about the broken windows idea where they're like, if you fix the broken windows, other things will come from that. And so I saw all these people just volunteering their time, like evenings, weekends, whatever I was getting paid, but they were just, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I loved that aspect of it. And so that was just amazing. I mean, the whole thing was fun, and it was because I was young and it was New York and stuff, but sort of seeing that, I learned a lot from the people at the county attorney's office there who'd been there for years and years. And I got to work on some really interesting cases. And so that was an incredible experience.
You was a law clerk during this whole time?
I was a paralegal.
Paralegal. Okay.
Yep.
So what's the difference?
Law clerk, which I became later, is after you've gotten your law degree. So then you're working usually for a judge, and you're assisting them, but you have a law degree.
Wow, I thought it was the opposite way around. That's interesting.
Paralegal is before, and sometimes I didn't have any special training. Sometimes you have to, like, people go to paralegal school, and you can do that, and then they just kind of teach you about the legal world. I just kind of picked it up, but
okay.
So then this is the complicated part of my life. So then I don't know what got into me, but I really, really, really love international affairs, and
how did that happen?
I don't know. I love to travel. I love hearing about other countries. I like to hear about what's going on in international affairs.
And at this point, had you ever been anywhere besides the United States?
Well, that time in Japan, and then the time in Australia. And I did a couple other, I was really lucky. I got to travel a lot as a kid to Europe. And
so that probably helped.
Yeah. And I just loved it and thought, wow, I can do this. So why wouldn't I choose to do something exciting? So I applied for the United States Foreign Service, which is...
How did you know that was a thing? You just already knew?
I don't remember how I knew that. I think my senior year, between my senior year and my first and starting a job, we lived in Paris with my college roommate, and we worked at a little store called the American Store and made brownies, which of course my mother was like, you just went to Harvard and now you're making brownies, but it was just for fun because we had a visa. And there was somebody there who had an Economist magazine, and I was bored and I was looking for something to read in English. And I started reading The Economist and realized, like, oh my God, there's this whole world of international careers out there that I had never even thought about. And I don't remember how I found out about it, but
once you start reading or getting into anything like that, that leads to something else.
I realized that was really cool. And I was like, I can do this. So I don't know. Do you know about the Foreign Service exam? It's this whole thing. So the exam itself is a 3-hour written exam, at least when I took it. It's like taking LSAT or something. It's a 3-hour written exam. And you
probably not no more. It's on the computer now.
I know, I'm sure. But if you get a certain score, and for whatever other reason, then they invite you to come do an interview. And this is to become a member of the United States Foreign Service, to become a diplomat. And the interview is crazy. It's all day long. It's in Washington, D.C. And they run you through with a group of like 8 of you, and they run you through a series of situations. They make you give a démarche, which is where you have to pretend that you're giving some information to a foreign government. There are people role playing. They do a whole role play where you have to, they give you some money, in theory, they give some play money and say, we want you to defend this project in front of a whole group and argue why your project should get funded. But then if your project isn't getting funded, you've got to figure out who should get funded. They had us do an inbox exercise where you had to prioritize things from an inbox. And So anyway, there were these guys
Was this
in the
fun
group.
for you, or was it
Well,
stressful?
no, it was very stressful. It
Okay.
was very stressful. And there were some guys in the group who at the beginning who were really just talking trash about how they've done this like 3 times, they're going to get it this time. They just knew what to do, and they talked to, because there was a lot of talking about, people who were taking the test would tell each other about what it was like, and you shouldn't drink water because that's a sign of weakness. Like it was all this thing, because it was all role playing. And then at the end of the day, they called people in one at a time into a room to do an actual interview, like an interview, like a job interview, And then at the end of the day, they said, well, you were the only one that made it through. Would you like to be a member of the Foreign Service?
Out
And
of
I was
how many people?
I think there were 9 in my group. So then it was super excited, like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then I had to go through the background check, then it was like another 3 months of like all this paperwork and all that stuff. And then, so this was like in the fall of 92, I think. So then I got called up. Then they said, we're forming class. And so then I got called up with there are like 30 people in my class, and got called to go to Washington and be part of a training class for the Foreign Service.
In that period, the 2 months, you were still law clerking, or you just
I had come back to Minnesota at that point because I had to get rid of my apartment. It was a whole thing.
Okay, so you were just pretty much just
Waiting, hoping that it came through.
yeah. Okay, and then you got the call.
Got the call, come to Washington. My parents didn't know they were like, what is this? What are you doing? I don't think my dad believed me. And then he told some other people about it, and they were like, oh, that's a real thing. So then you go through this class. It's called A100. It's kind of this famous class, this thing. And you're a part of a A100 group. And so I met this guy my very first day. And we had to do like a pretend cocktail party, like pretend you're at a cocktail party. And I mean, there were no cocktails, but it was like pretend, go up to people. You have to mingle, and then we're going to say stop. And then you've got to go back to your seat, and you got to write down 3 things about each person you met.
Wait. That was in Washington, or
Yeah.
was this like a speed dating?
No, this is in Washington the very first day.
Okay.
And so we did this, and we're all wearing our little suits, we're all like, and most people were young, not like, 20s and 30s. Not everybody, and I went back and I wrote down on this piece of paper, Doug Bailey, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, nice smile. And that was my husband. That was who is now my husband. So I met him on the first day of this class. So he had gotten in a different interview process, and so we had this training class for 3 months, I think it was. It was every day, full time for 3 months. And then he and I started dating, and then, got engaged by the end of the class. I mean, it was amazing. It was a very whirlwind.
How long was the class?
It was 3 months.
3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 months. No, 3 months. My kids can't believe it now. And then about
So it were the same people were going through that process.
yes.
So you would see
all
him
30
all the
people
time.
all day.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And
So
we got
makes
to know.
sense.
Oh, totally. We're
Yeah.
all hanging out together at night.
Right,
We're going out because a lot of us. I mean, I had to move to Washington and live in like a temporary apartment.
So a lot of people likely started dating through that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No, it was not uncommon.
that becomes your role for that time. It's without the women, it's like boot camp. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
That becomes your
very
whole
different,
world.
but yes,
Right,
like
yeah.
that. Yes.
So if there were women
Yes.
in boot camp, I probably married one of those people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay.
But then by the end, you have to find out which country you're going to be assigned to.
And you were engaged.
We were engaged, and it's this very elaborate process. And
How old were you?
27.
Also, a lot of time had passed.
26, 27. Yeah. I was in Washington. I was in New York for 3 years. And and they kept saying to us, like, people get married in the Foreign Service all the time. We cannot guarantee that you're ever going to be together. Like, that's a whole thing. Like, so I was posted to Poland, and my now husband was posted to Nepal.
I feel like those are 2 places I wouldn't want to go. Nepal before.
Oh,
Poland.
Nepal is awesome.
Yeah,
It was great. It was great. Well, my family is Polish. My mother's side of the family is Polish. So
The Golden Child is what I think about Nepal with Eddie
oh,
Murphy.
that's funny.
He has a
Yeah,
movie.
that's funny. So we had I think 7 or 8 months of language training, learning
Wow.
Polish. Yeah. And then doing all kinds of other training, like about, Europe and about the history and military stuff and all this stuff, and touring places and just learning about all these things that we're going to have to do. And I was posted as a consular officer, so I was like a visa officer. And my husband was the same thing, but going to Nepal. So he was speaking Nepali. He was learning Nepali in a class with 2 other people. So we were together that whole time. But then in that following, I think it was September, then we had to go to New York for a couple of days for some more training. And then we both, then I had to go to Poland and he went to Nepal. And it was like, okay, see you. We were going to try and get posted together for after our first tour, which was 2 years. And that fall I got to Poland. Polish is a hard language. So there's that whole thing. I had this beautiful apartment, but they give you an apartment, and I was doing visas for Polish people who were trying to get a visa to the United States. But I was like, wow, I finally met the person that I want to get married to. And he's in Nepal and I'm interviewing people in Poland. Like, what is
Did you know
going
how
on?
long that was going to last?
2 years. It's
okay,
2 years. Yep.
yeah.
And I just thought, and I looked around me in the embassy, and I thought, so if I work really hard and all the cards fall in my favor, maybe I'll become an ambassador. Otherwise,
Which would mean what?
well, it means, so if you're an ambassador, you are in charge of the embassy, which is like, so in each country outside of the United States, we have an embassy. And that's basically a little America in the other country, right?
Yep.
So the embassy in France, we have an embassy in Paris. The ambassador is the head of the embassy. And so it's the top level American official in that country. And so now if there's some military official, then they might have the same level. But typically speaking, they're the head American in that country. And we have embassies in almost every country in the world, not everyone, but I thought, wow, if I could work really, really hard and maybe become an ambassador and not be with this person that I just met who I really like and really love and want to get married to. And so we of course talked, and it was really hard to talk internationally at the time. There are no cell phones. And so trying to get a phone call through with this international operator was a nightmare, to Kathmandu, Nepal. And so after a couple months, I resigned, and it was a big deal because
To who?
Well, because to the outside world, it wasn't to me. It was a big deal because I had just gone through so much training and so much effort, the background check, all that stuff to get that job. But I flew from Warsaw to Kathmandu through Doha or something. And then got off the plane on the tarmac in Warsaw, in Kathmandu, which is much smaller. And, it was very romantic because it was like we were on the plane. There were no, jetways. And the stairs went down to the tarmac.
Yeah.
And my husband, because he was with the embassy, was with a Nepali sort of his fixer guy who was helping him. And so he was at the bottom of the stairs. And so it was very romantic because I got to walk down the stairs and be like, I'm here, and so. So
what is this, The Notebook?
It was really great. It was really great. And then
So what was the discussion, or was there a discussion on who would leave their job?
It's so funny. I don't even remember that. Nepal is really amazing. I don't know. It's the Himalayas and super exotic. And he was having this like amazing exotic time there. And I was in, grim gray Poland. There's a lot of great things about Poland, but I don't even remember that there was a discussion about him doing it. And I also was just much more like, you know what? I'm fine with this. Like I think, you and I have talked about like where I've got my confidence to do some of these things. So much of that is from this high school where I went to, because at this high school, they were really like, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have something special, and you can do whatever you want, but you got to put your mind to it, and you need to get education. No one can ever take that away from you once you've got that education. And then you can just go do what you need to do. And you should be in charge of that. Don't like let other people push you around. And so I was just kind of like, well, why would I stay here when I could go there? And so I did it. And it was kind of a shock. Our both of our sets of parents. So my in-laws, who, I didn't know this at the time, but so they're from Eau Claire, although my husband had grown up in Red Wing. And his mother was from Red Wing, and he had grown up sort of spending time there. They're all very Midwestern, very like traditional. They just were shocked. Like, you did what? You left? Like, very weird. And then we had to get married right away because I was now in the country without a visa.
Right.
And even though I had diplomatic status in another country, I didn't have it in that country.
Right.
And so that was a little weird. We had to, because we're both pretty close to our family, so we had to get married without anybody there. So the embassy was really nice. They put on a nice little party for us at the ambassador's residence. But it was definitely not the wedding I pictured growing up. You know what I mean? But it was so exotic and fun, and like, oh my God, I can't believe like we're getting married in Nepal. And so it was pretty awesome. It was great.
So that lasted, what, a year and a half?
2 years. And we stayed there 2 years. By that time it was a year and a half. And so then I started working at a organization called the Asia Foundation.
Once y'all got back.
No, this is in Nepal.
Okay.
Yeah. And I realized I still have my top secret security clearance, so I did some work for the embassy. But I realized this is when I really started realizing, like, I really like working in the community. I like working on whatever it is. I like doing that kind of community-based, either organizing or social services work or something. Like, when I look back now, I see that kind of through line. So I enjoyed that. And then we talked and decided that we would do 2 tours overseas and then go back so that I could go to graduate school.
Okay. So since you're not in the military, you talk about 2 tours. What does that mean?
Yep. A tour for the diplomats is usually 2 or 3 years. Depends on the job.
And you don't know where you're going to go.
You get assigned about midway through your each tour.
Okay. And can you, like, say, I don't want to go here?
Not really. They give you a list, and they say then you put in they give you a list of all the openings around the world. Yeah. And then there are certain rules, like you have to bid on, I think, 10, and you have to be willing to go to any of the 10. Okay. Like, if you put it on your list, you could go there.
Right.
And then you can't put like Paris, Berlin, like you have to put, and you can't do all Europe, and so you have to sort of move around. You usually have like 2 main areas of the world that you work in. And so we bid on Africa, and so we went to Uganda for 2 years, and it was a little weird because now I was the trailing spouse, meaning I was just kind of along, So I worked for UNICEF and USAID, which now it's no longer, but we did work for them. And was kind of anxious the whole time of like, what am I doing? I don't have a job. I don't really have a job, and I should be doing something, But I liked working at UNICEF and USAID. And
how did he like it while he was there?
My husband was in the Peace Corps in Ghana, and so he had a master's in African affairs, so he really likes Africa as a place, like, and the different countries and the travel and everything. I don't think he particularly loved the job. Okay.
Wait, the Peace Corps. What about this like other job that like he had a different job though, right? Like you said, like the ambassadorship. And
okay. So Peace Corps is a totally separate program. He did that out of college, and that's a 2-year program where you go volunteer and you're assigned somewhere in the world and you do something, Okay.
And
but you're a government employee. for the United States government. And a lot of Peace Corps volunteers end up going into the Foreign Service because they're like, oh, this is a cool lifestyle, you know. So he had done that, and then knew that this was another area of the world that would be interesting. And it was amazing. I mean, we didn't have kids. We got to travel around. We just, on weekends, we'd go to Kenya or go wherever, because it was, you could just do that. So that was great. It wasn't quite as like starry-eyed as Nepal, because Nepal is just, the people are really special, and not that Ugandans aren't special, but they're really serious, and you know, they've had a lot of bad stuff
like
in
peace
Uganda.
and
Yeah, and it's just really exactly. And the Ugandans have just been through a lot of really, really, really bad stuff. But that was, you know, we were there for 2 years, and then
in this time, were you thinking about your future and what you thought you would like to move forward into? Or?
Yeah, that's when I thought, I had this sort of epiphany of like, I really like helping people. I like doing this community work. And I liked, when I was at the county attorney's office, I liked the legal part of it. So I thought, I should go to law school. Duh, you know. So, because, you know, we were going to come back to the United States and Doug was going to work in Washington. So then I only applied to Washington, D.C.'s law school. So that's how I ended up going to Georgetown. That's this long, long story of how I ended up at Georgetown Law School.
So that was about 4 years later, 5 years after you graduated from Harvard?
No, it was a little more than that, because I graduated probably when I was 21 or 22. So it's like 31. Anyway, I ended up graduating in 2000.
Okay. And this is when you decided, being a lawyer, that's what I want to do, so I'm going to get my law degree.
Yeah, but I did apply to a special program at Georgetown, which is called the Public Interest Law Program, which is great because it paid for one whole year. Now, if you apply, they'll pay for the whole thing. But at the time, they paid for 1 year, which is really amazing. And then they sort of connect you with some really amazing mentors. I had this really fantastic law professor as my mentor, and just they connect you with a whole bunch of really great people, and they help you get summer jobs, and it was this great program. So I credit that program totally. And that was just great. Your whole time you're there, and you're expected to go into public interest law. Like or you have to pay the money back. So I knew from the get-go that I wasn't going to work at a law firm, which was pretty great.
It's like the forgiveness program. You're expected to work in certain fields for them to forgive your loan after 10 years.
Exactly. So that was great.
Let's see here. First time I'm looking at my questions now. So
I've been yakking away.
When you graduated and entered the real world legal system, what was the very first reality check or contradiction you noticed between what they teach you about justice in Ivy League classrooms versus how it actually functions on the ground?
That's such a great question. Well, let's see. I left law school. I was incredibly fortunate, and I got a law clerkship with a federal judge in Minneapolis. And we knew we wanted to come back to Minnesota. And so I applied for that. And
this time he was doing what? Still working with...
My husband was still working at the Foreign Service. Actually, he was working in the White House because he was in the Situation Room at the White House. And so we just decided, okay, now he's going to be done with that. We're going to come back to Minnesota. And my daughter...
Sounds like the House of Cards.
No, we're definitely not like that.
They can make a movie.
Yeah, I know. But no, our daughter was born when I was halfway through law school. So we had this little girl, and so we decided to come back to Minnesota. So my husband left the Foreign Service and came back. He didn't know what he was going to do, and so I got this job with Judge Michael Davis, who's now a senior judge here in Minneapolis. And I don't know if you know Judge Davis. Do you know Judge Davis? Yeah. It was one of the, you can tell I've had some really incredible breaks in my life, but that was an amazing one because
They all sound like they were.
I know. I was just really lucky. He was an amazing teacher and mentor, and I still text with him almost every day. And really, he's just become a big part of both my husband and my life. Like, so that was an amazing thing. So getting to the clerkship's only a year, but you get to sort of be a fly on the wall with a federal judge, and that's just really cool. And so I got to see some.
So what was it
pretty cool
located?
things. At the federal building right next to City Hall. The huge federal courthouse. Yeah, right there. And I had like the nicest office I've ever had in Minnesota. And got to watch and see what that was like. And it was just great. That was, and our daughter was 2 years, almost 2. And that was just an amazing experience. So that was pretty great. And then,
how long did that last?
Just a year. It was just a year. But it's funny because now I feel like my clerkship has lasted the whole time because we've been friends. And he's, I don't know if he's going to listen. He might listen to this, but he loves to nurture and bring people up, and he has this group of former law clerks. 2 of his former law clerks are now on the Minnesota Supreme Court. Well, one is about to go on the Supreme Court, but one is also on, and that's Justice Procaccini. And so he's just really great. And I think he had a big part of that, and so I'm part of this sort of community of former law clerks who all worked for Judge Davis. And so that was just really cool thing to have happen. And
so you knew that was going to only last a year.
Yep.
What were your thoughts after?
Then this is pretty typical. You go to law school and you apply for clerkships, always last just for a year. And you also apply to work like somewhere else after the clerkship. So you don't do that all at the same time. So I had thought, okay, well, I had a job offer in Washington, but we knew we wanted to stay here. So I did work for a law firm actually for a couple of years here, which was Leonard Street and Dinard, which is a nice firm downtown. I knew I wanted to long-term do public interest, and I had to do that because of my scholarship. But but I decided to get a couple of years of experience working in a real old-fashioned business law firm, and that was it was a really good experience because I learned about good lawyering skills and about how to be responsive to clients, and like about big money. There are a lot of big, and how money works at these big firms, and how the average person has no idea what that's about. So, okay, back to your question. I think that working in that law firm was a little bit of a shock for me. I had been doing all these public interesty jobs, and then going to work in a real law firm and be like, oh, whoa, there's places like this. Like I had no idea. And people who dress like this and who work like this, and the money that was going in and out. And it was just a big eye opener for me to realize.
It's like that. Oh, what's the name of that show? I watched the whole series where the guy memorized the whole book, and he asked him a question. He said, "How do you remember that?" So he started reading the question, then he finished his sentence.
I don't remember those.
I memorized the whole book.
That's so great. I love it. Okay. It was a good.
Meghan Markle. She was.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen that. I know, but what show you're talking about? Yeah.
But it sounds like what you're talking.
It was. And it was funny because I think it was a really good thing for me to have done. Suits, right? Yeah. It was kind of a check mark. I did that for a while, but I just never really felt comfortable. Like I never really felt like this is where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
could have made a lot of money probably, but
and we laugh about that now because it's like, why I stayed there, but and then I started looking. I knew I wanted to get in the courtroom, and they had a volunteer program there, so I could go volunteer to work in the St. Paul courtroom doing traffic court, which is like pretty low stakes, and so so I started doing that and liked it
for the lawyers,
well, right. And then I had another sort of lucky thing happen, which is that I was going around talking to people about getting ideas from people like where
Can we
I
stop saying
could work.
lucky?
Well, you know what I mean. Good fortune. Okay,
you were in a position where it could happen, so
yes,
and
but
you
I
put
had
yourself
a
there.
lot of this. I had all these advantages and these breaks in life and the education in particular that then set me up to do these things.
But you had the education because, again, you applied for the things.
True. But yes, absolutely. I'm not, but I'm always just cognizant that like most people don't have. I mean, I had parents who were willing to send me to the school. Like it all kind of, went from that. But
I just like, since this is like truth over noise, right? I just like making sure also that I let people know that luck is not just luck. Like nobody's going to come to your door 99% of the time and say, here's this great job because I know you were sitting around waiting for one.
Right.
You have to put yourself in a position where other things can manifest.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. I think I was able to learn from people around me who had sort of reached out and taken advantage of things, you know, and Judge Davis was really great at saying, sat down with me at one point and just said, what do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to get there? And I was kind of like, and sort of saying, okay, well, if you want to do that, here are the things you need to do. You need to start reaching out to people. You need to start all this.
So you start probably feeling like now it's more than you that you have to make happy. Now,
exactly. Absolutely.
So-and-so thinks.
And because I'm not representing him, but I'm, now it's going to make, let me tell you, when I've screwed up over the years, Judge Davis has let me know and in a nice way. But, so, I mean, I have that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I think, having sort of an elder person who's sort of holding you accountable. But I was going around talking to different people and saying like, tell me about your job and what do you do? And what do you do? And I talked to
right there. That's not luck. If you wouldn't have did that, you wouldn't have talked to what you're going to tell me right now.
This is a great thing. So I talked to Tom Johnson, who was the county attorney before Amy Klobuchar. And I hope I'm telling the story correctly. He was, at the time, after he was county attorney, he became the executive director of a small nonprofit that was like the Council for Justice. And we were just talking about, various things. And he was like, I don't have any work for you, but I'll keep you in mind. And then he lives next door to Amy Klobuchar, and he was taking the garbage out and she was taking the garbage out. And he said one night, hey, I met this young woman who really wants to work for you. But she can't seem to get an interview at the county attorney's office. What do you think? And like 2 days later, I get this call saying, hey, would you like to come interview at the county attorney's office? And I was like, I'd been trying to get in there for months. So that was just one of those like serendipity things. And I've talked to her about that since then. But so I then.
What'd she say? That didn't happen.
She remembered. She might not remember it now, but she definitely remembered at the time. But so we. So then I went to work at the county attorney's office, and I walked in the first day, and there were boxes everywhere, and things were falling all over the floor, and it was kind of ratty. And they gave me this little office with no windows, and I was like,
different from where you just came from.
Oh my God, so different from where I just come from. And I thought, I'm at home. Like I felt. I just felt at home. I was like, oh, this is the kind of work. The gilt-edged things with the fancy flowers, it just didn't feel comfortable. So
the pressure was not a thing you had to worry about anymore, because that could be a thing on its own. You're dealing with the pressure of having to fit in.
Yes.
So now that can be gone, and it can just be the work.
Yes. And that was a real good thing. I thought, oh, I finally got here. It took a while for me to do that, but so then I was there.
So it was a real job then. It wasn't just
no. So then I was I was when I was at the law firm too, but so now I was a prosecutor in the county attorney's office with Amy Klobuchar with the.
You said when you went to St. Paul, it was.
Oh yeah, that was a volunteer thing. Yeah. No, this was I left the law firm and went to the county attorney's office, and
was it like a real I was gonna say, was it a real lawyer pay finally? But that started probably.
Oh no, I took a pay cut. Yeah, exactly. I definitely took a pay cut from the law
county
firm.
Attorney.
Yes.
Like, well.
Yeah.
But you were doing something that you really felt like you were.
It was so funny because
calling for you.
after all this back and forth, all those little jobs I just told you about, all this travel, all this stuff, it was like the summer jobs, all this stuff, I finally was like, this is right. Like I'm doing this thing, and that felt really good. That felt really good, and I'm trying to think when my son was born. No, he was born when I was at the law firm. So then we had 2 kids at that point. And then amazingly, after we'd been home, if you back up a little, just for a year, my husband said, after he had always made fun of lawyers, and he'd said, like, you people, he'd always say, you people, talking about lawyers.
So this whole time, what was he
doing? He was taking care of our daughter for a year, like he did, because he left the Foreign Service, and he said, I think I want to go to law school. And I was like, what? So he went to law school, and
out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I never talked about it before. So he went to law school, and so that was a busy time. We had 2 kids, and I was the county attorney's office, but I loved it, and he liked it and everything. But a couple years went by, and he graduated, and we were living in South Minneapolis, and his family is from Red Wing, and a family house, his grandmother's house, she had passed away, and her house was available to buy, and we were like, Red Wing's a nice community that we couldn't really afford like these big houses in Minneapolis. So we moved to Red Wing. And so that was kind of a big move. So there was
you were downtown St. Paul, right?
Minneapolis, South Minneapolis. Yeah. We were at,
working.
No, I was at the county attorney's office. Here.
Okay.
Yeah, here. So yeah, that was a big thing. And so I started commuting a little bit, but with little kids, it was just impossible. And he got a job. Oh, so then he had finished law school, and he got a job as a public defender in Red Wing. And then so this was kind of one of those moments where you're like, okay, I really love this
right
job.
After you get your dream job. This is one of those moments.
I was there 3 years. And then, so then I took another prosecutor job down in Wabasha. So that was a big shock, because I was going from this, the county attorney's office was a great place to work. It was just really smart people, really funny. You really feel like you were just doing law. You had to be ready for trial for 4 different cases every Monday. It was very fast paced, all felonies, just very go. And I loved it. I loved the people were interesting and kind to me, but it was tough, and they call it Hennepin High, I'm sure you've heard that phrase.
Yeah.
It's, but I loved it. And so we, going down there was a big change, because all of a sudden it was like, oh, I really can't keep this work up. And I've got these 2 little kids. And so I had to go down to Wabasha, and that was like a big juncture in my life of going from this 400 attorney place to 3 attorneys.
Oh,
and it was a 45-minute drive down the Mississippi every day.
How long was it to Hennepin County?
An hour. Yeah. So, it was less.
So you
but
say 15 minutes?
I know. It wasn't, but it was a lot more flexible, and it was a lot more...
things you needed to...
It was just, it was maybe 35 minutes. I don't remember, but it was... So that was weird. I was there for...
You were disappointed a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just moments in your life, where you say, well, this is what I got to do for my family.
Yep.
And so that was a shock, because it was literally going into through the looking glass when you go down there. It's very backward. It's very, it was, sorry if anybody's listening from Wabasha, but it was just very...
Old school.
Very old school.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I was a child protection CHIPS
and Hennepin
attorney.
is, though, it may not seem like it because of some things we go through, a little progressive, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was also a shock, but I did a lot of it was just better for my life, for my kids and everything. And so I was down there for 3 years. And I did child protection and criminal and civil. So that I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. And then I just said, while I was down there, I decided to run for the city council in Red Wing. And because some issues came up, it's too boring to go into, but I just realized like, oh, I could do this. And if I'm going to have this kind of boring job, I could do this interesting thing. And so I got elected in a special election, and then I was on the city council for 8 years.
It just happened.
I know. That was wild. It was like drinking from a fire hose. Like there's so much information coming in, and you're like, but that was fun. It was fun. I liked the people were really nice. And I learned a lot about just how government works and how the city works and all that kind of stuff. And I was raising my kids, and so that was a busy time, but,
What'd you like about it? The most?
I like the problem solving part of it and trying to say, here's where we want to go with whatever issue. And, I liked learning a lot about a lot of weird arcane things like drainage, like weird things that now I know all these stuff about paving and weird things that cities do. I had to come up and testify a few times. It was fun. It was just fun. It was a lot. It was a lot. But at a certain point, after a few years driving to Wabasha, I thought, well, this stinks. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I opened my own law firm in Red Wing. And that was great because...
Wait. Can't just say I opened my own law firm.
Well...
Like, can you just go open a McDonald's tomorrow?
You can. No, you can. You can.
So,
but you can just open a law firm.
In
Anybody
your thoughts,
can. Yeah.
You were like, I'm kind of had my fill of Wabasha.
Yeah.
What's my next move?
Yes.
And then?
Well, and then, you're literally looking around and saying, I've got this law degree, so I'm obviously going to be a lawyer. And my husband's a public defender, so he's there. So what else is there in Red Wing? I mean, there aren't any big law firms there. And the county attorney's office wasn't hiring. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm going to open, and it sounds like a big thing, but there are a lot of people who have these solo practices, and it was just me, which was great because then I was totally in charge of my schedule, so for my kids.
Had you ever thought of it before that point though?
No.
See, so it wasn't a small thing. I'm just going to open, unless it was.
No, it was, but I mean,
move.
It was big because my husband had to be like, so are you going to make any money? It was like, cause I didn't know. And, but it was so much better for our family. Cause then I was around.
And then you did that in Red Wing.
I was in Red Wing.
From home, or you actually
No,
I
had an office.
Okay.
I had an office and I had a secretary and, summer interns and stuff. But I worked in, I still had some contracts in Wabasha and Red Wing and, Goodhue, and then up in Dakota County and a little bit in Hennepin. But I like that. I learned a lot about child protection and about CHIPS cases. I did a lot of representing CHIPS parents, so people who are parents, who are parents going through a CHIPS case. I did a lot of criminal defense. We called it door law, which means you'll do anything that walks in the door. So it was mostly people who were poor, who have poor people's problems, whatever they are. And it was a lot of, I did a lot of HROs and harassment restraining orders and stuff like that. But just as I started getting profitable, I got kind of bored again. So I did that for 9 years. And then I was like, okay, I was finally getting to the point where I knew what I was doing. And I was like, this is getting dull. And my kids both were graduating from high school. And so do you want me just to keep going? Or
Yeah.
have a question?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, wait. Yeah, I'll ask a question. So you decide to do this, and you become probably known, since Red Wing isn't that big, right?
Yes, that's true.
So you probably start picking up clients and things because I know someone who, and you just start to get to a point where you're profitable. So what about it becomes boring? You say it became boring. What about it?
I had several contracts. So I had contracts with these different counties to represent like parents and to represent, and it got to the point where I was like, I knew what I was doing. The guardianship conservatorship work isn't boring, weirdly. But a lot of the other stuff, it's like the family law. I really disliked family law. It's, people's divorces. It's a it's a bummer. You know, it's you're dealing with people who are not, they're going through the really bad situation, and I didn't find it didn't feel fulfilling, and it felt, you never really felt like you walked out of there going, yay, we got a divorce. You know, it was, and I just wasn't for me. I just kind of realized like, this is cool. I liked setting up my own business. That was fun and a challenge. But then it was like, okay, I need something more. And I was in court pretty much every day. And I love that. I love being in court, but I was ready to do some more policy work, like rather than waiting for a problem to come to me after it's happened, to be able to say, let's solve some problems. And I had some ideas at that point then about the child protection system and about public policy things that I thought would be good to change. And so at that point, then amazingly, my husband became a judge. So he had gone to he was only out of law school for 12 years, and he applied and he became a judge down in
Red Wing,
Red
right?
Wing. Yep.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, so he's now on the bench. And I had this little law firm, and I thought, what else could I do? And so I had seen, Tim Walz in a couple of situations, and I thought he'd make a good governor. And so I called him and said, hey, I think you should run for governor. I left out a big thing, which is in 2016 when my husband became a judge, I ran for the state house and had a big campaign, raised a lot of money, everything went great, and got creamed. It was the Trump 2016 year, and it was a great experience. It was very hard. I worked really, really hard, and the campaign went great. I mean, until the day before, we thought we were really optimistic. But
so you enjoyed your foot in the political arena.
I didn't like door knocking. Like I didn't like some of it. I didn't like the parades, like that kind of stuff. But I like the policy stuff, and I like some of it. I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it. I tried really hard. I mean, I got all the endorsements, all this stuff. It just didn't, it wasn't the year. But I did see Tim Walz that year, and he almost lost. You know, remember he was a Congress member at that time. He also almost lost. And so anyway, long story short, I had then helped with his campaign with some policy stuff, and then applied when he got elected and applied to work at DHS and was appointed to be.
And DHS is?
The Department of Human Services, which is now the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. But, and so I was appointed as Deputy Assistant Commissioner for Children and Families, which sounds higher than it is. Like there's like 8 people above me, but so then I did that. So then I closed my law firm, which is a whole thing, and went to DHS. So that was another pivot.
DHS. And how long were you at DHS?
3 years.
Then what happened?
The pandemic, and then because now we're getting up in modern times,
wow.
yeah. And so we were at home for that whole thing, and it's a long story, but the assistant commissioner, I was the deputy assistant commissioner. I didn't get chosen for the assistant commissioner position, and so I was kind of thinking, I had been the acting assistant commissioner for like 9 months, and then I didn't get chosen. And I was kind of like, what am I going to do now? And
I don't really want to be under somebody else who got the job.
Yeah, although she was great. I mean, she's great.
Right,
she's a friend of mine now and everything, but I wasn't mad at her or anything like that. But it was a little like, well, what am I going to do here? And then Jody Wentland called me from Hennepin County.
And you knew her from?
Just from my work at DHS. And said, we have this position. Would you be interested in coming over as a lateral move? So I was still a DHS employee. So, there's Nate's phone. So that's now no. So now, so that's how that worked out. And It was a good thing working for the state. Very, very, very interesting. It was hard to work in these big bureaucracies. It was a lot. I learned a lot. Let's put it that way.
Had you had your feel of it by the third year?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
you would have stayed longer?
No. Yeah. I think I was, I had a great time there, but I also then when I went to Hennepin, I was like, oh, okay, this is a good place. You know? So, yeah, no, it was, I wouldn't have wanted to stay much longer. It was good timing. I'm usually, we talk about these sort of through lines of things. I'm usually good at being able to say like, not justifying things, but being able to be like living with things, be like, yeah, there's a reason why things happen.
Right,
Sometimes,
right.
God, what's that phrase? God closes a door and opens a window.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. Like there's opportunities here and you got to take it here. And something's like, oh, I wasn't meant to go this way, but I'm meant to go this way. And so I've really continued to enjoy doing the child protection type work.
Wow. See, and how is that boring? How is that not worth talking to people about?
Yeah.
I think you can write a book, to be honest. Because like you said a few times, well, that's a long story, but I'll give you the short version. That other long version is something that needs to be heard.
Oh yeah, I know, but well, yeah. So it's been great. We're very glad we came back here. Very glad that this public interest law program kind of set me up to be in this public interest world. Working for Judge Davis sort of further defined that. So that's been there's been a lot of. I keep talking about these through lines, but I'm a big believer in that and saying, what makes me happy and why am I in this job and why am I doing this type of work and what is it I want to get out of it? What do I want to contribute? I mean, I think that's always my big thought process. So yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, it's very interesting. I won't ask you any questions about currently because you know why. And, but that's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
You never sit back or do you sit back and just think about that whole journey?
Yeah, of course. I think
it's kind of vanilla, but but it's a journey.
Yeah. No, of course I do. I think how I mostly think like, wow, I've had so much fun. I've been so lucky. I got to travel. My husband and I both love to travel. Our kids love to travel. Like we get to do these fun adventures.
Yeah.
We had some adventures when we were in Uganda and Nepal, like really amazing things. And so, and as you know, I still love to travel and like to do these like kind of wild things. And so I kind of feel like, hey, if God gives you the ability to do some things, I feel like we can't waste any minute. You got to take advantage of every minute.
You feel that way?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know. Well, right?
I mean, that's great to hear you say, to be honest. It's really great.
Yeah.
Because I feel similarly without the word God in there, but I feel.
Yeah, my husband will laugh if he hears this because he'll be like, you talked about God, but.
But I mean, I believe in a similar thing. I just don't put that word in. I just say my path.
Yeah,
that's meant.
Yeah.
So I
but
get. But
you
exactly
are the same way.
saying.
I mean, you've made a lot of things happen. Like you've said, I'm not going to sit here tonight. I'm just using that as like a euphemism. I'm not going to sit here tonight and let 4 hours go by. I'm going to do this or whatever it is because you can. Because you just make it happen. And I think it's a gift.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm amazing. You know what I mean?
You are amazing.
And I want you to know that you are too, because our journeys are really different, but they're really similar. You don't know mine. And one day maybe you'll listen to a show that I'm talking about it, but where you had people to help guide you in your life, which is great. But those people who you've had come into your life, that's the interesting part, because my journey is a whole different set of people. And those were usually people who I was dating or,
Yep.
and so instead of like mentor roles, you know, and even though I was dating him, they took a mentor role.
I was going to say, maybe they mentioned you in a different way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so my journey had, you know, got me to, so I've seen a lot of everything, and I really enjoy talking about that journey because most people won't get to do the things I've done in my life, just like most people won't get to do the things you've done in your life. And so that's unique, which prompted me to write the book I wrote. And it's only like the first quarter. I got to do 3 more or 2 more because I just got to get it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think to yourself, I want to document this.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. I know. No, I'm so glad you did. I'm halfway through the first section, but I mean, just the sheer, just kind of the stuff you packed into a year, you know? So,
yeah. And doing it through like having the AI help is a gift and a curse because it messes up stuff. It like puts things in there twice or something. And so I'm now having to go back through and dictate now. My friend got me to do that. He said, "Hey, Nate, you got an audio version of this so I can listen to it while I'm at work." And so on the app that I use, I can have it read, but I just thought it would be better coming from me. So I use this to do it. And so I just finished. So I just finished the whole book. I dictated it. And so it's my own voice reading my own experiences.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really great.
So I add stuff that is not in the book because I'm talking about it in real time as I'm reading it. And so I think we all aren't interesting, but a lot of us have interesting things to contribute, and it can help other people. So like this was like valuable to me.
Not boring? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate it. It's fun. It's fun to tell you about it. And, you know, sometimes I look back and I think back, like, especially those years when we were doing all this crazy stuff and the living overseas and the back and forth. And I think, did that really happen to me? You know, because it's almost like I can't even believe it now. But
talking about like Nepal, coming off the plane, he was there,
getting married at the ambassador's residence, and it was really crazy. Yeah.
See, your life, you had this. What I like about your life is you can tell this whole story, and there's like one male focus, right? That you can talk about it, and you talk around him, but he's there.
Oh yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
With me, there's not that. You know, it's totally different. But I appreciate that too because it makes it a whole different, you know, living experience. Yeah. Where you would be like, oh wow, you know, where yours I can be like, wow, I wish I could have experienced that too, but not really because I have this experience, right?
Exactly. And you never know. It's like everything leads you to something else. Exactly. And so you wouldn't be where you are today if you hadn't gone through those years before Hannah, for example. But it's weird to look back on life that way. And it's pretty great. I've been really lucky.
And you don't really get to talk about it unless somebody says, "How did you two meet?" You know, at a wedding.
I know, and also it's such a long story that it's like, oh man, I don't know if I want to go through this all. But it's pretty crazy, especially because we are both from here, and we were both, you know, so like we both grew up skiing at Welch Village, and you know, it was just like this thing when we were both in the 70s. We lived around here, and then we were in Nepal, and we were, you know, going to like we went to a wedding where the king of Nepal was there, and so that was like this whole thing, and so we just had some great adventures. But it's been amazing to do it with him. Yeah.
All right, so thank you for coming through and talking about it.
I hope nobody listens to this, but I love being here. Thank you for having me, and
you want nobody to listen.
No,
I can delete it.
No. I'm just teasing.
An hour and 18 minutes talking about your life.
I hopefully. Oh my God, crazy.
So for those of you out there, hopefully this is Truth Over Noise, and you get to hear truth in between all the drama and the noise that's happening within your life. So hopefully you can pull something from this that can help you move forward in a more stronger, positive way. And until then, let me leave you with this.
In a world that evolves in all ways, your foundation is eternal love always. Subscribe and like if you peep me. Hit the notification bell if you wanna see me next time I'm on the frequency. Yeah.